Hello friends, and welcome back to a very overdue video, another thrift flip in which I will show you how I'm taking some items that I picked up from the thrift store and will turn them into planters for some of my live plants that I own. Not all of the items I'm showing you here will be turned into planters, but the last three definitely will. The first two are already kind of in the theme of the planter upcycling that I'm going with here, which is turning these two glass bowls and then this little metal like cup into planters that are fruit shaped. Now the metal cup is already kind of like in a lemon shape, even with a texture, so I didn't really do anything with it other than paint it, which you will see in this video. But for the two glass bowls or vases, I decided I'm going to use some air dry clay to reinforce them a little bit, make them a little bit sturdier and be able to put some lightweight plants in them. So of course I looked for something that was already somewhat in the shape that I was going for. The round bowl that you saw here is going to be turned into an orange, and then the other bowl is going to be turned into a strawberry because it has the honestly almost perfect strawberry shape. Now working with this air dry clay was a little more iffy than I expected, but I made it work. I rolled it up and then I kind of just attached it to the glass to then later let it dry, and so far it's been holding up pretty well. I was a little worried about it separating from the glass, but it's actually been holding up pretty well. I will say when it was dry, after it had finished drying, it was a little bit cracked, but I was not too concerned about that given that I have the glass sort of base underneath. So the clay was really just to kind of texture it a little bit more and you know, add some texture but also make it more sturdy. So again, I wasn't concerned about imperfections. I also was not concerned about making this a 100% authentic strawberry and orange and lemon imitation. You can very much tell that this is a craft project by somebody who's still figuring out a lot of crafting techniques, but it was really fun to do. I will say I started this back in May, and then they just sat around for almost a month until I came back to them and decided I finally need to wrap up this project and just share it with you, because I shared the original thrift haul where I picked up these items a while ago over on my main channel, and I will link that here of course. What I'm doing here is trying to attach some sort of leaves for this strawberry. They did not come out that great. I did some more later for the orange. They came out much better. I'm trying to add texture. I kind of just poked holes in it. It was a little messy, but it's fine. Nature isn't perfect, and leaves on strawberries and oranges aren't perfect. So again, I was not very concerned with making this a, you know, strawberry planter that looks like AI created it. That is not what I'm trying to do here. It's supposed to look a little bit imperfect, imitate nature, but also very obvious that this is a DIY craft project, and I'm totally fine with that. It works for my aesthetic, it works for my home, and it hopefully works to maybe inspire you to try out something even if you're not super crazy talented, because as you can see, neither am I. I also want to apologize for my slightly messy crafting space. Again, when you're crafting, I think realistically things are gonna get messy. So I will never be that person who has a very just clean surface and only 3 items visible in the frame, because that's just not the reality of crafting for me. You get in there, you get your fingers dirty, you get clay underneath your fingernails, that sort of thing, and you have random stuff sitting around on your table next to you. So I hope you guys can still see and tell what I'm doing here. I know my camera angle was not perfect. I tried to fix it as much as I could, but you get the idea. I'm putting air clay on a bowl. It's not rocket science. It's simply me making a big old mess. Two wannabe planters that you're seeing here. They're two little hanging glass vases. I think they're meant for things like air plants, and that's actually what I plan on using them for as well. I did purchase these from Amazon, so they're not really a thrift flip. They're still an upcycle though, so I wanted to include them here in this video because they also go with the theme. The reason why I picked these up was because I want them to look like cherries with, you know, like a little green cord attached that looks like the stem, and I will actually get some air plants and put them in there. The tricky part was I, first of all, have never painted on glass before, I don't think, and I wasn't sure if my paint was going to stick, so I did add some baking soda to my acrylic paint to give it a little bit more of that chalk paint texture, because I figured it's going to be a little bit more gritty and it's probably going to stick better, which it did. But every time, spoiler alert, every time I added another layer of paint, I took off paint in other areas of these little bulb thingies. So they're, again, not perfect. I'm still trying to figure out how I can improve this technique and what I can add to them to just make the paint a little bit more even and cover the entire area. So they might still be a project for the future, but for the most part, they're good to go, and you will see them here in all their glory at the end. Now what I'm doing here is trying to mix up a perfect lemon yellow for my little wannabe lemon planter, and could not quite figure it out. It turned out I did not have the right kind of yellow, so I just kept adding and kind of making it worse. It was a little bit more of a buttery yellow. I did add some of the baking soda, again, to make it a little bit more gritty, but I was not really happy with this color. I tried to add, you know, different tones of shades of yellow, and then after painting the first coat, I actually realized I had a teeny tiny little tube of actual lemon yellow. That's actually what the color was called, and you're about to see that here in just a second. I was glad that I found that, because I was able to did the second coat in that proper lemon yellow, there it is, and was just able to do the first coat in this, I don't know, a little bit more like a buttercream kind of yellow, a little bit more muted than what I wanted. So in the end, I finally figured out the right shade, but yeah, trying to mix yellow, kind of impossible because it's a primary color. So if you don't really have the right colors for this, that's gonna be a pretty annoying endeavor. Although there's probably ways to mix it together and I'm just not aware of them. But here we are painting this little wannabe planter that's already in the perfect shape to be a lemon. There we go. I'm finally adjusting my camera. Good job, Veronica, halfway through the video. So yeah, this one definitely came out nice once I had the right kind of yellow, and I was also very happy that I had enough, because I had these teeny tiny little tubes of acrylic paint that I got from my kid at some point, and then he never used them, so I just have all these little things of different paint colors sitting around, and I'm very happy to finally put them to good use. The funny thing about this little yellow planter is that it's supposed to be a lemon, and then I actually received another little planter from a Buy Nothing group that I showed at the very beginning that's actually small, yellow, and supposed to be a pineapple, but it's actually smaller than this one, so it's kind of an odd thing, but again, we're not trying to fully imitate reality and make this realistic, so I was okay with that. Here I'm going for the second coat of the cherries, also to kind of lighten the color just a little bit. This one was mostly fine, but again, every time I added a coat, things started crumbling off, coming off in other areas, so I don't know, I didn't find a perfect solution, because the more I messed with it, the more of the initial coat came off. You can't really fully see it here. It actually looks like it's better coverage in the video than what it actually is in person. So that's cool. So I could be lying to you and say, oh yeah, this came out perfect, but it didn't. So I just want to let you guys know, if you have any good tips for painting glass, I'll leave them in the comments. I did look up some techniques to kind of make a colorful glass with Mod Podge and food coloring, but that's still, it's my understanding that still gives you like a very transparent look to your glassware, and I really wanted to cover these and make them as opaque as I possibly could. Here we are with the almost final step for all of these planters to kind of seal in the color and make sure it wouldn't just come off. I mixed some Mod Podge. I think this is the glossy one, either the satin or the glossy. Mixed that with a little bit of water, and then the color, the desired color. It looks a lot lighter when you mix it up, but once it dries, it actually dries in that color because the Mod Podge dries clear, and it gives it that nice little, you know, protective coat. But again, you can sort of see it as every time I'm turning this little cherry planter around, that it's just not perfect, and that's because also I'm sitting it down on the bottom instead of the side. I know there are different ways to let these things dry and then just go in and do a second coat in a different area. I don't have the patience for it, and so that's probably why my projects will always look a little bit imperfect, and you know, that's fine. Also pause for finger cleaning. Yeah, I had a lot of paint on my fingers throughout this entire project. It was funny. I'm trying to take the paint off my little mat that I have, and it's just not working out. I will say this red color was perfect for the strawberry. I was really happy with the way that turned out. The leaves that I tried to attach there are not a great look. I could have improved upon that, but I also just didn't really worry about it too much. At that point, they didn't bother me too much. I paint them here at the very end once I have all that red color on there. I also did put in some little indentations to, you know, give you an idea of where the seeds would be. I decided not to do anything more with that, you know, not add anything or paint little yellow seeds in there. I figured just having that texture there was enough to give you the idea that, oh, that's a strawberry, and it turns out that it was absolutely fine. It was a little bit of a pain to, you know, fill in with color and such, but that's okay. It's fine. I could probably have painted it yellow first and then go over with the red, so that any of the spots that I couldn't reach with this brush, or I couldn't reach easily, would just shine through in yellow as the little seeds. So that would have been an option, but again, I was not looking for perfection here. I had a project in mind that I wanted to complete, and I found some fitting glassware at the thrift to use, and I just went for it. So this project was definitely a little bit less relaxing and a little bit more annoying in certain ways, just because I don't know, I do want to create items that will look good in my home and not like a kid's craft project. But sometimes I just need to take a step back and remind myself that A, I'm crafting not just to decorate my home, but also for my mental health, and to just take a break and do something else, not stare at a screen. And for that, it's definitely a good project. And also, it just does not have to be perfect. I'm not trying to win any prizes, nothing like that. So it's fine the way it is. And if push comes to shove, I can always say my kid made it. You know, that's why I have him. Anyway, I'm kind of looking for like a good matching color green. Again, not a perfect green, but just a green that will look as natural as possible. This, you know, probably not it, but it was a nice contrast, so I was okay with it. I think the green that I'm later using for the leaves on the orange that I attached after it had dried actually worked out a lot better, but it's also nice to have that little bit of contrast between the different greens. I think that was a good idea. So I did like overall how this came out. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier was that for the two planters that had the air dry clay on them, so the strawberry and the orange, I went straight for the Mod Podge and paint mixture because I felt like the air dry clay was enough of just like a neutral base to make sure that the color would show up properly, and you know that I would only really need one coat, and that worked out just fine. You can see it on the strawberry planter and then also on the orange planter that I'm working on right here. One coat of that Mod Podge, water, and paint mixture turned out just fine. And I just put some plants into these as well and rinsed them off, you know, because they had some dirt on them, and so far no color has come off, so I'm inclined to say that this works pretty well. You probably don't want to soak them in water for too long. That's the other thing about the air dry clay, that it does tend to disintegrate or, you know, fall apart when it gets wet, but again, I'm not too worried about that because any moisture that will come from the plants is you know, blocked off from the air dry clay by the glass inside the vase, so that should be fine. So I'm not really too worried about it, and if push comes to shove I can always put some fake plants in there, but that's of course not the idea here because I actually am trying to grow quite a bit of a little indoor garden, if you will. Okay, now what I'm doing here worked out a lot better in terms of creating little leaves for my orange than the ones for the strawberry did. So I created two little leaves for my orange and kind of just stuck them on there kind of while the paint was still wet, but the main portion of the planter was definitely still, the clay was already dry, but they so far have worked out just fine, have not fallen off. I did kind of bend them over a little bit at the top to hold them in place right at the rim, and yeah, that was fine. The next part of the project was to take these like cords, jute cord string, and kind of combine them with the clay to make them a little bit more stable and easier to mold, so I can turn them into the stems of the cherry planters. And that was probably one of my least favorite parts of this project because it worked out eventually, but it's not super pretty, but it works out. I also was kind of running low on air dry clay, so I just used that last little bit here. And so I'm adding that to the cord. I'm adding it to the cord because I wanted to make sure I have something to attach it to the planter, so you know, make a little knot as intended, and then have the air dry clay for stiffness, if you will, to make it look more like a stem of a cherry, and also to be able to paint it a little bit more easily. So again, they're not you know, 100% accurate and true to nature, but I tried my best, and that's all you can ask for. For these little cherry stems, I kind of hung them up. You can't really see it in the video, but I hung them up to dry so that they would sort of be in shape a little bit. And then what I'm doing here, kind of off camera, I hope I'm still figuring it out as I'm filming here. I am painting the little leaves on the orange. There we go. Now you can actually see what I'm doing. I didn't tape up the planter. I actually just put some what is it, paper towel or something underneath, just to make sure I protect it a little bit from that color. Again, I'm not trying to color it from all the angles, just like if it's just sitting there on a shelf that you cannot really see any of that white clay shining through, but also not making it 100%, not giving it a 100% coverage. Again, this color actually dried quite nicely. I want to say it looked a little bit darker in person than it does on here. And then I just used the same color for the cherry stems and made them a little bit more like dark at the top, kind of where that little connecting piece is. I don't know what it's called. I'm not great with plants and proper plant terminology, but you know, the spot where the two stems of the cherry connect. whatever it's called. It's usually a little brown, right? It's not green. And also, yes, cherry stems are not that bright green that I'm using here, but we're going for contrast. It's good enough. And here we are after weeks of preparation and just sitting around halfway done. These planters are finished, and yes, I'm filling them with some plants as well. The only ones that I haven't filled again are the cherries, because I'm getting some air plants for those, but the other planters are currently sitting on my window and on some shelving that I have on my window before I can give them their permanent spot. The permanent spot is hopefully going to be on a cactus-shaped shelf that I have had for a while now, but need to fully assemble and find a good spot that is just as sunny and bright as this one right here. So that part of the project is still work in progress, but so far so good. I have a lot of planters, I have a lot of little plants that are in those planters, and then of course I still have some regular ones that are not fruit shaped, but we will not hold that against them. I hope you're also not holding this slightly messy video and voiceover against me, and I hope you will come back here to the Moody Maximalist and follow my journey, and I hope to see you then. Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe, and I will see you very soon. Bye!